Yeah, thank you. I'm super happy to talk about this topic with you today. I don't claim to talk about the truth or something I take for real, but that's 5 or 10 years of readings and stuff I was interested and I wanted to share with you. So be critical on that, and the idea is to open a discussion. First, I would like to ask you, perhaps the people that are not completely sure, what do you think is anarchism, and what is to be an anarchist? If anybody wants to share the ideas they have. Come on, yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's being against hierarchies, and especially the state and religion, and also domination in domestic relations, and domination everywhere, I would say.
Yeah. Someone else?
Yeah, I would argue that anarchism is also about solidarity and building community.
Okay. Great. Another idea?
For me, it's about rejection of any sense of control which is not consensual.
For me, it's rethinking the foundations of the society, like from anarchy, like without foundations.
To me, it instinctively means sort of like chaos, essentially.
For me, it's tied to the concept of radical democracy and how to organize the society at best without hierarchy.
Okay, thank you. I think we have a lot of ideas. We're going to try to understand the different concepts you mentioned. For chaos, it's a common idea that was brought by capitalist propaganda. No, that's definitely the case after the bombing that happened, that they did some terrorist attack. And so this idea of chaos and anarchism was connected. Pretty ironically, the O of this single, it's so A for anarchism and O for order. So actually, I think it's Chomsky that said that for him, anarchism was people that take order seriously. And because they want, it's very organized. It's not perhaps the idea we commonly have, and that's why I want to dig into this topic together. So you already mentioned the etymology. So anarchia, it's A, which is privative, and arche, which is authority, domination. So you can think about something of like absence of authority, but actually it's not exactly the case, because it's more the idea that we have to question authority. Like to be sure if when there is an authority, it's legitimate to be an authority. And to question if you have an institution and a specific authority, it has to justify itself, justify why you have this authority. If we take an example, I don't know, a grandfather with a daughter. If the daughter is about to cross the road and there's a car, of course the grandfather will take violently the daughter, and this is authority in a way. But I think it's easy to justify authority in this sense because, yeah, better to protect the daughter. I also like the idea of self-subverting authority. It's a concept that also Graeber developed a lot. And basically the idea of self-subverting authority is, for instance, a teacher. A teacher is an authority, but the purpose, the goal of the teacher is not to keep the authority. At the end, if he did a great job, there's no more power on the student because the students are free. They're able to think by themselves. So there are some kind of legitimate and non-legitimate authority. And when you have a legitimate authority, we have to fight it and create other way to organize. The core principle around anarchism came from the debate that we had in the Enlightenment. So how to have maximum freedom and maximum equality together. I think it's one of the core values. Not only equality, but also freedom. The idea of direct action, which means we don't need any intermediaries in order to do something. We can do it ourselves. Direct democracy, so how to have no representative. Most of them are against voting, because if you have a representative, it means that somebody will do politics instead of you. And I wanted to mention Proudhon, just to give some historical perspective, Proudhon is the first guy that said, I am an anarchist in a positive way, because before it was linked to chaos. It was used in a context of chaos. And this guy is pretty important. He also influenced a lot Marx with the idea of appropriation of collective force plus. And in this book, there is this famous question, what is property? And for him, property is theft. Why? Because he explained that any lucrative property, which means property with which you're going to do money, for instance, real estate, housing, or capital, if you have money using your capital, it's oppressive because you're alienating people working for you, for yourself. He also developed the idea of mutualism, federalism, and subsidiarity. Subsidiarity is the idea that it's a principle that comes from religion, and subsidiarity is the idea that everything that can be done at the base has to be done at the base. If we are able in a village to do our own food, let's do our own food. I don't see the point with importing food that we are able to do. Of course, if you have conflict or specific issues that you have to manage at a scale which is larger than a city, you would need a specific institution. And this institution has nothing to say about your food you grow in your city. So that's the idea of subsidiarity, which can help of thinking of system of different scales. And not only this idea of like only a specific village. We can't solve climate, for instance, with only village. Like the question of how to tackle issues that are global, we would need institutions for that, but those institutions have no authority on the basic needs that we provide ourselves, like energy, things that we can do ourselves, basically. For the second part, I'm going to spend some time of the different school of thoughts. This quoting very interesting by Emma Goldman that said, if voting changed anything, they would make it illegal. I really like it. And Bakunin, when the people are being beaten with a stick, they're not much happier if it is called the people stick, which is a reference to communism and the experience of Soviet Union. So as you may know, the main branch of socialism are the following: reformists, the social democrats, that think that by reforming the system and the institution, we can give right to workers, to people. Then you have two other branches that are very linked: Marxism, communism, and anarchism. And both of them want to reach communism. Communists thought that they have to do the dictatorship of proletariat, so use the power of the state in order to abolish the class society. Anarchism instead were very much against this idea, and I'm going to explain why. So here you have a bit of like the history between communists and anarchists. That has been a love-hate affair for many different reasons. So this guy is Bakunin, and in 1872, he said this. He said that the leaders of Communist Party, namely Marx and his followers, will concentrate a lot of power in their hand, centralize commercial, industrial, agricultural, even scientific production under the direct command of engineers or specific people, and this would create a privileged scientific and political class. So that's 50 years before Stalin. And he also explained either one destroys the state, or no one must accept the most fearful thing, which is the red bureaucracy. And it's in 1872, so I think it's very interesting that anarchists, on this perspective, understood how dangerous can be the dictatorship of proletariat, and they were very much against this idea of having an authority or a vanguard that is able to think instead of the others. Then you have a lot of historical betrayals between communists and anarchists, from communists to anarchists. You have, for instance, for the 1917 revolution, the October Revolution, there was a lot of anarchists. They loved the idea of Soviet, because the idea of Soviet is like direct democracy, and at the workplace being able to organize ourselves. But when Lenin started to think and theorizing the vanguard, the importance of the party, anarchists did not accept, and many of them have been killed by communists. You have also the story of Nestor Makhno. So basically, in Ukraine, in 1922, so after the revolution, you have an anarchist army of about 30 or 50,000 people that were working on direct democracy and the principle of anarchism, and they were fighting on one side against the White Army, so the Tsar, and on the other side the Red Army, the communists, and they've been killed, most of them. You also have Kronstadt, another example, but I'm not going to explain all the example, but you have many betrayals that happened between communists and anarchists. The Spanish Revolution also, where at the end, the Soviet Union stopped the help, the military help to the Spanish Revolution in 36, 37. Yeah, and then the Hitler-Stalin's pact you probably heard about. But that was to give you an idea of why anarchists and communists sometimes hate themselves, even if they want to do to reach the same goal. And this one is a bit more wholesome, I'd say, because as you see, the second is anarchist communism. So you do have some room for thinking together. So this is the three main branches, school of thoughts of anarchism. And I think most important one is individualism, because it's, even if the consequence of it, like collectivists reject some ideas of individualists, but all anarchists are in a way individualists. What does it mean to be an individualist for anarchists? It's not egoist. It means that we start from individuals to change something, no? If you do not recognize the power of your father on yourself, the religion on yourself, the society on yourself, see, we don't understand that we have to emancipate our individual from that, we won't be able to change anything and to create a collective that can change anything. So we have to start from ourselves and understand ourselves, what are the issues, what are the kind of pressure, domination that I suffer from, and to then try to emancipate itself from that. You have also the idea that you have a denial, complete denial or rejection of a concept of human or man, because for them, each individual is unique and there's not such a thing as man in general. Then you have the anarchist communist, in French it's a communist libertaire. And basically it's a fusion of anarchist and communist idea. So they have this very scientific approach, dialectic of scientific Marxism, dialectic. They read Hegel, and so there are structured ideas on how to collectivize, how to organize together, but with this fear of authority, and that we have to avoid any kind of leadership that remains. Yeah, this fear of authority. And then finally, I think a very important movement was anarcho-syndicalism. Something that is not very new is that unionism at the end of the 19th century was created by anarchists that thought that it was possible to do the revolution at the workplace. That if we free people from the capitalists within the workplace, we're going to do the revolution. And for them, it was a revolutionary approach, unionism, but not with intermediaries. So you do it yourself, and as worker, we organize the fight and the struggle against capitalists. So you have, like here, you have an idea where were anarcho-syndicalists at the end of the 19th century. So about everywhere. And by the way, at this time, the International, there were more anarchists as well than communists at this time. And they have a lot of influence on many struggles. For instance, I'm going to talk about strike. Strike, today it's a bit boring when you say strike, but at this time it was a very powerful tool, revolutionary tool. For instance, you have, so in Chicago, the high market story, I don't know if you heard about that, but in 1896, you have a general strike that is called by anarchists. We have about 3,000 people in the streets in Chicago fighting for the 8-hour day and against child work. And you have this huge protest, and they go in the streets after the strike. You have about 300, 400,000 people. and the bomb explodes, and you have 5 policemen that are killed, and everybody, nobody understands what happened. 10 days afterwards, they execute the 5 leaders, anarchist leaders of the protest. And afterwards, we discovered that it was organized by the police. And so the police bombed themselves in order to put in jail anarchists. And you have huge protests around the world after this event, in Europe, in South America, even in Japan, where they were fighting for the memory of this martyr, these 5 anarchist guys that are being killed. And that's why we have the 1st of May. 1st of May, the days of worker, come from this event. It was the 1st of May. They theorized also the idea of sabotage. There's this book from Émile Pouget, where basically, so sabotage comes from, I don't know if you've heard about it, but sabot in France is a wooden shoe. And basically, they used sabot to break the machine and start a strike, a struggle inside the companies, and it became sabotage. So to break something in order to fight for something, and now it's used in many different languages. So I mentioned this main branch, but you have a shitload of branch and different ideas in anarchism. Just to mention, anarcha-feminism is very interesting because they were the first, like Emma Goldman, or Louise Michel as well, that fought. There was people. They were not only thinkers; they were activists. They were pretty crazy when you see the life they had. For instance, La Commune de Paris, what Emma Goldman did with the people in jail and everything. I invite you to have a look at that. And way before the intersectionality, that is very famous now, they talked about how oppressive behavior reinforces itself, and how patriarchy is connected to capitalism, to racism, and they were thinking about that like at the end of 19th century. You have a lot of stuff in arts, Dadaism, Surrealism, they were full of anarchists in there, Futurism as well, then cyberpunk, punk, you've heard about it as well. Christian anarchism, much more, I don't know why, but all the Christian anarchists I know, like Ellul, for instance, or Ivan Illich, they are into epistemology, and they're super interesting as well. Pedagogy, just to mention Francisco Ferrer, who was a pedagogue, a thinker in Spain. He created l'Escuela Moderna, which was the base of what is called today Montessori, the school Montessori, where you have intergenerational pedagogy, where together we go to a goal, but together there's no authority. They were working with wood, with metal, they were doing a shitload of things. It's super interesting, and you have many different pedagogical schools that have been inspired by him. Obviously, like a large part of anarchists at this time, he was executed for fomentation of a terrorist act that he never did. And now, I don't know how much time I have. Half an hour? Okay. So I can take some time. So anarchist experience. In the third part, I wanted to talk about different experiences that happened. To see, okay, what does it mean, what it is to have a human experience of this kind of ideas, and you have always a gap between ideas and then practices. Yeah, interestingly, George Orwell, that you probably know, that wrote 1994, wrote this book on homage to Catalonia, sorry, because there was the Spanish Revolution there. And this book is amazing. It's about 90 pages, and I invite you to read how Orwell was amazed by what happened there, the abolition of money, the collectivization of land during war against Franco, where you have communist and anarchists together working for the same cause. It's a very interesting moment, I think, in history. I won't spend much time on it, but I wanted to mention it. You have a book, for instance, from called The Hope from André Malraux, that then became a Minister of Culture in France, by the way, interestingly, that is about this war. And not only the war, but also arts. It's very interesting. So you have what is called primitive communism. Before Marx, you have communism that existed in many different places. This excellent book from David Graeber and David Wengrow, I invite you to read. I think it was the best book I read in the last 2 years, really something amazing. who tried to build a new anthropology and try to question the way we thought about accumulation, about cities, about agriculture. And he gave a lot of examples of anarchistic or communist experience that were in the indigenous community in South America. You have the Indus Valley. So it was 4,000 years ago. It was about 2,000 years, where they have principles that are very linked to direct democracy against authority. You have Frisian freedom, which was in Europe. I discovered this recently, about 500 years. I think it's next to Denmark, and they were completely against state. And there were thousands of people working with the principle based on agriculture and sharing and finding goals that we have to do together with a collectivist way. And you have many examples, but I didn't want to mention, to spend too much time on that, because anarchism is a bit anachronic to say it's anarchist. But you have this, a lot of different experiences, human experiences that happened that are linked to those ideas. So when you say, okay, we don't have any other solution than capitalism, you just have to remind yourself that many things happen in the life and people lived in different ways. So this is a bullshit argument, I think. And here you have so the post-industrial revolution event, a few of them. I'm not going to explain everything, but La Commune de Paris, you've probably heard about it. Not completely anarchistic, by the way. You have a lot of communists there. It's not anarchistic in itself, but very interesting. Yeah, perhaps I'm going to explain just this. For La Commune de Paris, so basically you have the war between Adolphe Thiers, not Hitler, Adolphe Thiers, the president of France, against Prussia, the ex-Germany. Then they were fighting, they were in war. And this happened, and both government, German and French, did an agreement, stop the war to fight the revolution. Just to give you an idea, well, our war is not that important, we have something important happening there, we have to smash them. And they killed 20,000 people in a few days. Apparently, you could see blood flowing in the street of Paris for days. Makhnovchina, I mentioned it, is the Ukrainian army. Shimin Commune, very interesting, in Korea, South Korea. You have this anarchist group. I don't know exactly because I discovered this recently, but that fought for very good ideas. They have a lot of experiences. What is interesting with what happened now, I think there is some link, like the legacy of this kind of people. What happened in South Korea, you know, they against the president. So the Spanish Revolution. The Mexican Revolution I didn't mention as well, which has a complete failure because they fight against themselves at the end, because you have the peasants that were Christian and religious but anarchists that came to the city, where you have workers, educated workers that were like, oh no, these peasants are religious, we don't want them, they fight against each other, it's stupid. And you have the legacy, the Zapatistas now, that probably heard about. It's been 10 years now, even more. And yes, I wanted to, yes, this also is, I just discovered this for this conference. It's happening in Sri Lanka. It's been 60 years. It's like 15,000 villages that are working on communism-based democratic, direct democracy. They show together how to produce. Like I just discovered that. Have a look. It's really interesting, because it's been 70 years. And I wanted to spend some time now on the Kurdish revolution. So you probably heard about it. I wanted to have a look on that. You have many different. If we have clarification question, you can of course jump in. So many anarchists say that it's not anarchist and everything. They themselves does not call themselves anarchists. They say now confederalism, democratic confederalism. But I think in many ways you have an anarchistic behaviors, communist behavior, and the way that they work is very interesting. I hope it's not too boring. So geographical and historical context. So basically, in between Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Iran, you have about 40 million people that are Kurdish people. The PKK, so the Workers' Party, was created in 1978 with also Öcalan, Abdullah Öcalan. And it was a Marxist-Leninist group, warrior, that they were doing attack against the Turkish power. And they thought that he was the way to fight, and it was to create a state, to create the Kurdish state. So having this communist, Marxist-Leninist approach, we need a state in order to free our people. And then there was this ideological shift, complete shift, at the end of the last millennial, where you have this leader, Abdullah Öcalan, that was captured by the Kurdish power. The Turkish state is still in jail now. And so one important event that happened, that it's this guy, Öcalan, in jail, started to read Murray Bookchin. I don't know if you heard about it. I'm going to explain him just afterwards. But basically, having read him, he was like, okay, maybe create a state is too dangerous, is super authoritarian, and we have also not only Kurdish people with us. You have Assyrian, you have Christian in this zone, you have Turkmen, you have a lot of different peoples there and ethnic. So he understood that it was dangerous to think this way, and he started to theorize based on Murray Bookchin another way to see the future, what is called democratic confederalism, with as a core principle, I'm going to explain feminism, because already in the 80s you had Sadiq, a girl from the PKK that was very feminist and explaining before Judith Butler how important was to fight patriarchy in order to fight capitalism. So you already have some roots. It's not only Murray Bookchin that influenced that, but you have this shift that happened. So yes, briefly, Murray Bookchin is an anarchist that created the concept of social ecology. For him, if we have environmental destruction, it's because we had hierarchies in our society. So if you have a hierarchy, legitimate oppressive hierarchy within humans' structure, that's directly explaining why we have also destruction of nature. Because if you have a look at communities and indigenous communities, they don't destroy. Because they don't have this hierarchical superstructure. So for him, he connected at the last century ecology and fights against capitalism. So I won't spend too much time on that, but he was also interesting because he has this, what he called technological rationality, where in the 60s he was talking about the wind and solar, explaining how we can decentralize power production using those things that were completely not famous, like nobody talked about this. It was technology not proper existing, just thoughts. It was like, we have solution that enables us to free from powerful structure like nuclear. We can decentralize energy, and he built this concept of libertarian municipalism based on many experience, notably in America, where he lived. There's I don't remember which state, but you have cities where you have assemblies, and it's been 200 years. They have assemblies every month, and they self-manage basically some of the things in their cities. So he was a lot influenced by that. And he thought that it was possible to create a society based with the core of politics within the commune, within the municipality, where most of the decision can be made. And of course, then a confederation of different municipalities in order to tackle issues that are regional and so on. And that's what they did in Rojava. Rojava, so before they were saying Rojava because it means the Kurdish land. The Kurdish land, and they changed for autonomous administration of North and East Syria because they recognized that they have to include also the other religions. So not only Kurdish, so they changed their name. And they became very famous. So before I showed the whole map, here it's, so Rojava, it's the northeast of Syria. Here you have about 2 million people living there and 3 main cantons. Kobane, Afrin, and Jazira that are working with this principle. They created the autonomy in 2012 after Assad giving the autonomy to this region, and they became famous in 2014 because warriors from the army force of Rojava expelled, removed Daesh, ISIS from Kobane, and everybody was like, "Wow, this woman kicking the ass of ISIS people, it was something." So they started also collaboration with America at this point, like the States and also European nations, in order to fight for, even if they are against those ideology. on one side they have Turkey power that are killing them, and the other way they have ISIS. So of course they play geopolitically with other actors. And yeah, feminism is super important. So they understood that revolution, if we want to do a revolution, we have to free first women. That's the first act that we have to do. So they have a lot of stuff. For instance, each decision step, you have a council of women. So for a municipality, you're going to have a council only of women, non-mixed group, and they have veto, which means that every decision that is being taken, women can veto it. They have also the armed force of women, the YPJ, which is only women. What is interesting as well is that all the armed force, if you want to be an armed force there, imagine you want to kick the ass of ISIS and you go tomorrow, you're gonna spend, I don't know how much time, but few days studying feminism. So every people that have a weapon has to go through some feminism pedagogy. It's very interesting. And they created the women houses, Malajin, to solve conflicts between couples, so to protect women that are in difficult situation. And it's not a state, even if they have a kind of government that delegates. It's not a state because this government have no monopoly of violence. The armed forces are democratic, are chosen by the people for each municipality. So it's not the state that has the power to protect property as a normal state. And lastly, I wanted to mention some ideas and try to think together, open the discussion as well. So for Kropotkin, very good book, The Conquest of the Bread, easy to read, where he tackles a lot of taboo and the cliché on anarchism. I really like the idea. For him, economics in a sane society should be the study of needs of mankind and the means of satisfying them with less resources possible at the end of the 19th century. And Proudhon explaining, I'll let you read this one. So I would say that it's hard to talk about economics when you're an anarchist, because for them economics becomes something in itself. It's something circular. Whereas for anarchists, economics is only a need to attain what we want. So basic needs, but only luxury good, music, etc. Here I wanted to mention two things. First, prefiguration is very important in the anarchist movement. Prefigurative politics means that you have to, within your action, when you do a collective or whatever, you have to embed the idea, the horizon you want in your collective. So what you do has to reflect the society in which you want to have. So I don't know who said that, but to be an anarchist is being as you already be, free in a way. And I want to also mention something historical very important to introduce the next slide. Propaganda by deed is the idea that we can do a symbolic attack or symbolic even violence or non-violent event to do propaganda, to show to the others, okay, I'm committed to the cause, I'm able to do something very violent that is very spectacular, and people, we can have more people around in the revolution to push people for the revolution. They did a lot of stuff like that. It was first Cafiero and Malatesta. And they started what is called like I can't remember the name, but a period in which they killed a bunch of guys, let's say. It depends on the historians, but they say that they killed about, anarchists in general, they killed about 200 people. They killed, of course, king, bankers, big capitalists. Here you have just, for example, you have a lot of, they put a bomb also in the parliament in France. And the question was like, okay, we have a monopoly of violence. That is the one of the state that is protecting not the people, but only private property. So if they have this violence, why us, we can't use violence for our cause? Why can't we do the same? So they were questioning that, okay, maybe let's kill people that are there and we remove them. So it was a process. I think anarchists, then the movement understood a lot of things through that. So it was a terrible, I think, failure in a way that they kill many people, but they're all being changed afterwards. The propaganda of capitalists on chaos started at this point, and the myth of bomber anarchist became truth at this time. And I have to say that it was very bad for the movement, because then you have the First and Second World War, and the movement has no more people, no much more people activity as before. Also, a lot of them have been executed, of course. If you want to have some perspective on this historical stuff, you have a very good documentary in English that is called No Gods, No Master, a story of anarchism. You can find on archive. It's 4 episodes, I think, and it's chronological, so it's more historical than what I did. And that's also why they shift the vocabulary, some of them, because you've heard about libertaire. I don't like in English because it's libertarian and we connect to right-wing libertarian. But libertarian was left-wing and it's still libertarian, it's still left-wing. Just these stupid capitalists thought that they forget the basic needs, the communist part of anarchism. Like you start freedom, yes, when everybody has enough to live decently. They forgot this part. So there was this shift in intellectual spheres from saying, okay, I'm an anarchist, now I'm a libertaire. And you have a lot of, I don't know if you do Michel Foucault, Bourdieu, I know mostly French, but I think you know them as well, Deleuze. Those guys say they are libertaire because they don't want to have this etiquette of, okay, anarchist, chaos, and all they don't have to justify themselves. I think it's a debate to have what kind of word we want to use. And finally, so that's the last slide, concerning economics. So yeah, the idea is like the production has to be, we don't want to produce wealth, we want to produce human. And human, we want to live next by, like have a neighbor that will find. That's the purpose of the economy. We want people of quality. We want to produce good people. You have an interesting text on Graeber on that. And for instance, when you take Marx, so Marx basically said, okay, if we take your capitalist system, I can show you how stupid it is and you're going to destroy yourself. That's in one sentence what Marx said. And that's weird because now you have feminist people saying, okay, we have reproductive work. But anarchists are like, no, it's not reproductive work. Because first it has a lot of, biologically, it means something that we don't want to think about it. But more than that, it's the most productive work. Like care and domestic work, health are the most productive work when it comes to create good humans. Not good human, but human. Yes, then you have this idea of gift economy. Yes, gift economy. It's what has been used in many communities. So basically, you are in a trustful situation where if I need a tool that you have a possession of a tool, I need it, I'm going to ask you to use it. And I'm fine, there's no exchange of money. So it works only with trust. I think it does exist a lot with friends and also with people you have around where you're like, okay, I needed that, you give it. And in many communities, it's based on this principle. It's also explained in the book of Graeber, The Dawn of Everything, this gift economy thing, and also in the book 5,000 Years of Death from him. so what kind of practices, anarchist economic practices you have? Do it by yourself, cultural production. You have free shops. You perhaps you know, but free shop is like basically a shop in which you bring stuff and you can take stuff, and it works. I had a collective in Roma, and it was full of people every day. People were bringing stuff and taking stuff. It was working pretty well. Digital commons, of course. Wikipedia is very anarchistic, for instance. You have a lot of the web at the beginning was very anarchistic in itself. Then you have the grow food movement, where you trying to be sufficient in terms of food. So as I said a lot of things. I wanted to spend just this thing on recognizing the historical failure of anarchism. So anarchism didn't bring revolution so far. Like in different places, yes, there's some stuff happening, but of course we didn't create Stalinism and the authority and but we didn't create also a large part, even in West world, of people, community working like this. So we have to question ourselves. This thing of violence, so be self-criticizing, I think is very important in anarchists, because anarchists, they don't want to be the guy that knows things. They're more the people that want people to discuss together on specific topic, not bringing solution, but more ideas. Like if you take, for instance, the 68 May, you know, May 68, what happened also in Italy and France. So you have the Stalinists at this moment, the Maoists, more exactly, that were organizing all the assembly, the parliament, and they wanted to manage everything themselves. And I said, well, these fuckers, they want to create a red bureaucracy. What they did is like they brought students that even did politics, peasant farmers in the assemblies, and it was and communists couldn't do anything. They just bring people to discussion. It's not just you have to think yourself in a way to manage a society. It's like, let's bring everybody and think together, like in the democratic way, of solution that can bring us to something else. And I wanted to mention that. Thank you for listening. I think I hope it was not too long. And here you have some easy to get in sources. So also I can give you the whole bibliography, but I think this is the easy stuff to get in. So Reddit, of course, this one is really good. You have a lot of questions on how do you do when there is crime, what is a crime, legality. A lot of topics are being tackled there. The document I just mentioned. And then I think an old one, if you want to go into like the old thinkers, I think one of the most important is the anarcho-communist Kropotkin, The Conquest of the Bread, I mentioned. And you have also two books from a professor, I really like Rudkina, that is very pedagogical. And that's all, thank you. I hope we're going to have a great decision.